a mason jar?
Yeah.
Hey, we're live. We're live. Mason jars. And Andy was just drinking out of a mason jar, and I was like, "What? A mason jar? I haven't seen that for a minute." Amazing. You're very creative, my friend. Just resourceful, using whatever you have. Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Go FUD Yourself. Getting off to a really good start. JD Gagnon here, and Kiara, as you can tell, is not with us today. Good friend of ours, Andy Boyan from last L2. What's up, buddy?
Good to be here, as always. Nice to touch base with you. I haven't talked to you in a little while. We've been telegramming here and there, but good to see the face. You're coming in thick up here. You got a little something going on, man.
So the funny story, it's been weird since I've seen you since I saw you in Denver. Obviously we showed up at all your pop-ups in Denver, but I was supposed to be my son had hockey in Texas this last week. So all the dads on the team, I had orchestrated this thing that we were going to grow these really gross mustaches, like
awesome
handlebar to chops. And so I was growing my beard to just make it, just furry and gross. And long story short, I ended up not going to Texas. I'm in Arizona at the moment. And I got this critter growing on my face. So I figured, since my local hockey team, Florida Panthers, are kicking ass this year, maybe I'll just parlay this into a playoff beard. So for anybody that's a hockey fan, playoff beards are a thing.
I'm rocking the hockey flow these days. I got the furious flow. So
when are you gonna get that hair flip is something else? When are you gonna get the beard to go with it? Like
when I'm old, like they just don't grow on my family's face until men are 60. So I don't know.
And then all of a sudden,
I hope, because like it just I've had this face, baby face, since I was 16 years old. Not a stray hair.
It's kind of cool because you still look 16. But anyways, okay, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know if anybody cares about my facial hair, but we're going to talk about, obviously, the upgrade DENCUN that was today. We're going to talk about some layer 2 token excitement. We're going to talk about incubator, which is pretty interesting. We're going to talk about Tyco, Injective, Eclipse Labs. Oh man, we got just tons of little projects to talk about. Lots of really cool stuff actually happening. So I'm super stoked to get your input, Andy, given both your role at last, obviously, is leaning into this. But I think it's just a space that we've been playing in for a minute. So it's exciting to get your feedback, thoughts, opinions. Before we jump into it, do you want to do like a quick what is last?
Last
L2?
is it's a native yield chain L2. It's got sustainable mechanisms for yield. We are just beginning, so you can go to last.net and see very little because it's really just kicking off. But in the spirit of the discussion today, everything is about L2s. We've got our own take on an L2. I think there's a really strong L2 thesis and many opportunities for many L2s to work together, to compete, to mix and match, kind of like DeFi did in the early days as well. So that's what last is. I've joined as head of growth there, and so we are growing the chain from nothing and spinning up the team and spinning up the tech and spinning up partners and doing all that. Anybody can check it out, but all of these comments will be caged in last discussion, at least in my brain, at least.
Yeah, what's really cool also about last has nothing to do necessarily with the product, but the team, yourself and the team are just crushing it at the guerrilla marketing. Some of the taglines that you had, your Zap banners, like some of that stuff was freaking hilarious. And your pop-up kind of activations were freaking cool too. Anyway, so for anybody that's into like that guerrilla marketing, that super community feel, last is a good place to check out also.
Thank you. Thank you for the
definitely a fan. All right. Let's just jump right into it. that the first time you've seen that?
Yeah, it's so good. It's killer.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
The Sam and Carolyn thing got me. That's gonna be a throwback, man.
That video is killer. Absolutely. All right. So just a quick reminder to everybody, we are a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, which happens to be 9:30 a.m. Pacific, which totally messed me up this week because I'm in Pacific time. But we're a live show. Like, share, subscribe, help us get the word out. We have quite a few actually live viewers now and people commenting, and our degen roundtable friends seem to come and check us out all the time. So shout out to those dudes if you're watching. Welcome. All right, Andy, let's start.
Let's blob
with let's blob with the much anticipated DENCUN upgrade, which incorporates EIP 4844, which aims to drastically reduce gas fees on layer 2 solutions, heralding a significant step forward in Ethereum's scalability and efficiency. This update, named after Deneb's star and DevCon's host city Cancun, introduces proto-dank sharding to lower transaction costs, thereby enhancing the feasibility of decentralized applications. According to Optimism Labs CEO Carl Florsch, this will enable developers to build more sophisticated apps directly on the blockchain, enriching the ecosystem. The upgrade is anticipated to substantially lower DEX swap costs on platforms like Arbitrum and Optimism, fostering a richer, more accessible blockchain environment. You're an OG, my man. What do you think about this? Is this
lower fees good, gas bad? Lower fees good. That's it.
Are you banging on the table at the same time?
Banging.
Yeah.
Okay. It's fantastic from usability standpoint. You know, L1 fees, swap fees are $80, $100 today at today's prices. I mean, it's just not sustainable. New people cannot see that and just participate. It's only for like insane degens and to who will participate in that, which means we're just circulating the same couple $1,000,000 around, you know, various rugs. That's not what this is about. This is about moving people to L2s and making it totally commonplace and normal to go to places where, oh, I can have an experience that is closer to a Web 2 speed experience. And the transaction fees are worth it. They play a vital role in, you know, spam prevention and Sybil resistance and all that stuff. But to reduce those and make them manageable is key. This is killer, man. I am personally like Infinity Keys. Y'all know Infinity Keys, the old project. It's still kicking. I'm just waiting for Optimism to do the upgrades, and so it gets it, and then we have this beta out, and we'll start releasing more products because it's cheaper and it's going to save us so much ETH.
Well, I mean, it's about my napkin math, about 80% reduction in gas fees is the expectation. It's slightly different on each L2, obviously. But it's going, you know, an average swap, I think it was on Arbitrum. Let me double check. Yeah, on Arbitrum is expected to go from $2.02 on average to 40 cents. And on Optimism from $1.42 to 28 cents. So it's becoming a lot more cost effective for smaller transactions. Still not good enough for micro transactions and the like, but we're getting there. We're getting there where it's a heck of a lot more manageable. I mean, obviously, scaling and the requirement for block space is a big piece, and layer 2s have provided incredible solutions, but with them have come some inefficiencies that we're now fixing. My only other thought on this one is it's great to see that the space can actually come together and continuously deploy these updates, and they work, which is pretty interesting. So, I mean, it's definitely worth taking note. We all complain that Ethereum takes way too long to deploy stuff, but at the same time, they do a pretty darn good job when they do. So probably some stuff worth looking at if you're a developer or a budding entrepreneur in the space. Figure out what they're doing. What are they doing to test out changes? What's the process? What's the QA? All of that stuff is pretty important. There's a few
other pieces to the upgrade that I won't get into the technical specifics, but they add other usability enhancements for account abstraction. There's a self-destruct module that's changed. I can't remember exactly how, but there's a few things on the technical level that add to better swaps and better UX along those lines. So it's not only cool that they're shipping it, it's cool to see core devs getting together and making usability enhancements not just security enhancements, things like that. Like that's really important for adoption. We see this wave of, right, there's early adoption even in blockchain. Like who was doing liquid staking first? People who were like, locking into the beacon chain. That was not a lot of people. They did that. They took the risk. They moved it early. They were well rewarded for that, because then when the switch to POS happened, now tons and tons is flooding in with Lido and liquid staking, and that's really pushing the space forward. We keep seeing that happening. Same thing with L2s. Oh yeah, we got a bunch of people on L2s, but then in the last couple of years, the reality is like activity on L2s was down. Like it was just not happening. It wasn't worth it there. Oh, but now that a couple of us are on L2s, those of us are playing in those spaces, whether it's on Avalanche C chain or Optimism and Arbitrum and the L3s that go up from there. What we'll see is that shift. Now more people will get more comfortable bringing size, bringing volume. Where there's volume and liquidity, retail will get more comfortable. Institutions will get more comfortable. And it's a slow march, but it is a clear march. Like it's the same march that we've seen from the beginning, from ICOs, and before that. It's like, here's how these things work. So insanely bullish. I'm very excited about this whole thing.
What's really cool about this, and we'll move on to talk about some of the layer 2 tokens in a second, because people seem to love when we talk about token price. But I mean, it's been exciting over the last little while to see these protocols and blockchains evolve. But what I think is really interesting about this cycle, at least from my perspective, is there's we just have a different paradigm that we're viewing this through now. We've seen some fairly sophisticated applications. We've seen some really interesting financial products created out of this technology now. And so now it's not always we're building this thing that in the future will probably have a use. We're saying, hey, here's all the uses that we've already identified, and here's ways to make those better. And we're already doing that, which is, I think, really interesting and obviously a testament to, I think, the tenacity of builders, because, with the headwinds of no regulation, then opaque potential regulation, and just all of the different challenges that we've had as a space, there's a lot of people that are remaining steadfast and focused on this, which is stinking exciting. Okay, layer 2 token surge. We're not going to talk about last for a whole host of reasons here, but we're not going to also talk about our speculation for what we think tokens are going to do. But as you could imagine, ahead of the DENCUN upgrade, all the layer 2 tokens went bananas. Arbitrum, Optimism, Lido DAO, Metis, fairly notable increase in value. The upgrade, which we talked about before, obviously lends itself really well to benefits for Optimism and Arbitrum and other L2s, where it becomes now orders of magnitude less expensive to participate and to use applications on their network. Do you think that this is, indicative of kind of a longer term trend, Andy, or is this kind of, I don't know, buy the rumor, sell the news, or I don't know.
Absolutely longer term trend. I mean, I look at the rest of the stories that are kind of lined up, and they all say the same thing, which is there is interest and enthusiasm for layer 2s, different models of layer 2s. But to your point earlier, the thing you were just talking about, we're figuring out these use cases. All of these use cases, almost all the ones that I can think of, I'm not going to say all in case I didn't think of one, require locking up assets as collateral. Like that's a really core use case for stable coins, for lending, for dexes in AMMs. All of it requires locking up assets, which means all of this is insanely bullish for price as well, because there is utility in the fact that we need to hold something as collateral that maintains value. What can we hold? Well, Bitcoin, obviously, wrap it and hold it. We're running out, man. ETH, we're running out. The fees are going up. What else we got? We got layer 2 tokens. We're going to run out of those. Like that's how I see this, is as we really do start to build in utility, all of the utility kind of has this sort of, well, we got to make sure we have enough sinks. We got to make sure we have enough locks and vesting, involved in all these, and everybody did it. And those, not everybody, there are some who don't, and those will, make themselves well known as those unlocks happen. But a lot of the core use case is about locking things up for utility, for security, for real reasons. The DPIN movement is all about, lock up assets so that we have proof that you have a vested interest in participating in these networks. So I think it is a definitely a long-term trend for usability, and those things all go together, right? It's a system. We need to have demand for the assets as collateral so that it has value to use the application, whatever it happens to be. Lending, for example, stablecoins, probably the best example. And so those things go together. And as you build that, people get excited about the utility. Well, now they got to lock up more. It's just all moving together.
Good. Yeah. And it's exciting because, excuse me, we're starting to see real value accrue that is a little bit more sustainable than we give out free tokens, so number go up. Quick question for you, given that you're fairly deep in this L2 explosion, so to speak. Do you think that there is diminishing returns now from continued L2s, or are we seeing meaningful enough differentiation that they in fact are attacking different problems? Do you think we're going to continue to see more L2s this cycle out of need and or innovation, or more out of opportunity?
Both. I think it's the capitalism, dream, free market of ideas. We're going to get a lot. There's going to be way more L2s than you're going to want to hear about, and people are going to start saying L4s and putting new numbers on them, and proof of.
Well, we're actually going to skip 4. We're going to do what Jack Dorsey suggests and go from Web 3 to Web 5.
Go to 5. So, this go to Plaid. We went to Plaid, right? We're just going to make Spaceballs references and go all the way. And some of that's going to be ridiculous, and some of it will be like there'll be too much effort for the average person, even the average degen, to figure out like, okay, what's the difference between all these dozen L2s? And people are going to kind of segment, and that's already happened somewhat. But I think we're going to continue to see it because there's enough liquidity, there's enough value, and there's enough interest to try different models, to try things that work. Do points work? A lot of people are trying points to get these incentives, early degens. Like a lot of people L2s are making that play right now. We're going to get the degens. We're going to get people excited. We're going to make meme coins. I've talked to you about this before. Speculation is a use case. I believe that. I might not like it all the time, but that's why people come and they play in the playground. Not everybody, but a lot of people. What are the other use cases? Right?
It's not what we want to tell people. Hey, come to the space. We're all going to sit here and speculate. But it is really part of the toolbox. Hey, so I think you'll have a unique perspective on this next one. We're going to talk a little bit about Incubeta, which is a pretty interesting Chainlink rival. And being a former Chainlinkian.
I'm even repping Chainlink today. I just put on my gear.
Yeah, you just put on. Yeah, you're so used to you're doing a podcast. It must be a Chainlink podcast. But yeah, kind of in that same vein of trying new things, and so on and so forth. There's a Chainlink competitor that is starting to see some interesting movement. So the way that the article introduces this, CoinEx's latest review illuminates the significant strides that Ethereum's DENCUN upgrade promises for layer 2 scalability and cost effectiveness. Concurrently, Incubeta emerges as a strong competitor to Chainlink, distinguishing itself with an innovative AI-driven blockchain solution. This development signals a noteworthy evolution in blockchain technology, underscoring the potential for AI to redefine investment paradigms through Incubeta's Cube token, offering a unique blend of technology access and investment democratization. Man, did they pack a lot of buzzwords into that intro paragraph.
Warning.
AI. Okay, I'm in. Just take my money.
Cool. All right, sure. Here's my thing. Cool. Oracles, new Oracle solutions. There's a bunch. I've seen a lot more. We're building the new chain, and so we've got Oracles knocking on our door with different models. Getting access to Chainlink is hard. They're expensive and they're backed up, and it's hard to get access to Chainlink. It's an open secret in the industry. To get Chainlink onto a new L2 is crazy expensive, and it's hard to do. It's a nightmare. And so there will be competitors. Some of those competitors will have different technical advantages and different speed advantages because that's how tech startups work. But tech and success in tech has never been about who's got the best technology. It's about execution. Chainlink has the network. They got the network. It's already set up. It's existing. It's running. It provides safety. So I'm not worried about Chainlink. If somebody takes a small, snip out of their cookie, I think they'll be just fine. They'll improve their product. They've come out really clearly against a bunch of competitors and different offerings lately and said, sometimes we take a little longer to come to market because we're going to make sure it's safe. and they're in a position to be able to do that. Honestly, I think it's good for Chainlink and any sort of stalwart in the space to have competition. Push them, absolutely push them. We want to see that. I'm excited.
I'm a little torn on this one for similar reasons. I think it's great, obviously, that we're seeing competition. It breeds innovation, of course. It encourages innovation because that competitive nature. Where I'm conflicted is there is, and don't quote me on this, I'm not an economist, but I sure did talk to a few PhDs that are economists about this specifically. And there are ways actually to mathematically prove how it requires, for this type of security at scale, requires almost a monopolistic type environment to get liquidity to scale for security reasons. And so I don't know enough about it to have a real opinion, but it is one of those things I've been told on 2 separate occasions that it should be a winner take most, just because of the network effects and so on that Chainlink already has, to your point. I think it makes the space better. I think we cannot have one solution. I mean, many of our products use multiple with load balancing and cross-checking and so on, just in case. You never know, one might go down, something might happen, like you just never know. So I'm actually quite pleased to see competitors here. I'm just not sure if this is one of those areas of the space that might end up being low competition. That being said, who knows who's going to win? I don't think we're at the point yet where anybody said, okay, this is the technology, we built it first, no one else is ever going to touch it. I don't think we're there. And
so here's a little vignette, and if we get derailed, I promise it'll tie in. This is a infrastructure play. In the last bear market, very recently, I ran a consumer company and tried to raise and was stomped to the curb many times. Like it just, nobody was interested in consumer. Everybody wanted to build, to fund infrastructure and build infrastructure. AI comes along and it's an infrastructure. It's an orgy, right? It's just like, oh, here we go. Now we're going to do decentralized AI, everything. And some of that will be real and very valuable. But there is a lot of infrastructure. So my last project, Infinity Keys, questing and games. And so many people told me to come and be like, turn into like a progressive questing platform, just like Galaxy, like do what Galaxy did. And now you go out and you see how many competitors there are to Galaxy. There's dozens. So many people did that, took the recommendation and took the money and pivoted into just being that sort of product. I didn't, and look where Infinity Keys is. So there's a lesson right there. But that said, I think we're going to get a lot of infrastructure like this. We're going to get a lot of press like this because there's a lot of VC money and you do the press thing and like that it comes up.
Yeah,
people are going to pump their bags. So
this smells a lot like a paid PR placement to me. This doesn't seem like something that they just picked up on their own. I feel like this one had to be paid. It's too specific to a new emerging product.
Incubeta. All right,
Incubeta, like a product that none of us have ever heard of, makes it to the top of the headlines all over the internet. I assume they probably paid for it. But
they got 45,000 Twitter followers. All right, I'm not saying anything else about that.
But they've got 45,000 Twitter followers. Okay, man, we're really good at not being fast. Mainly me, but I'm gonna blame you for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk a little bit about a couple of fundraisers. And speaking of L2 proliferation, this is kind of highlights what has been my criticism of the L2 proliferation. Nothing against Tycho. I don't know actually anything about Tycho, which is probably half the problem. But they did a Series A, raised $15 million in their Series A for a Type 1 ZK EVM Layer 2, aiming for full compatibility and enhancements in scalability and efficiency. This approach maintains Ethereum's core features like censorship resistance, security, and permissionless access, while significantly reducing transaction costs and increasing transaction throughput. Okay, I'm interested in your thoughts. How excited are you for that? But does that sound any different than any other L2 ever?
So it doesn't sound different from other ZK EVM L2s, but the thing with ZK is they're different, and you got to trust the math when they say, "Oh no, we're different." ZK Sync. How are you guys different from, Polygon's thing? Oh, it's a different proof. And all of a sudden they're talking in Klingon. It's like, okay, I'm going to just trust computer scientists here. I don't know. I think it's the same thing. It's not about the best tech. It's about who can execute, who can build that traction, who has a community that matters, whether that's niche or connected to the rest of the community. And when it comes to a fundraise, get that money. I mean, you're raising and you're going to try and make a splash. You need that money to be able to do that. And so I'm not that excited about the Series A. Like that number isn't that meaningful to me. It's not like the $200 million raises that game companies were doing at the end of last run. So that doesn't ring any alarm bells to me. But all the L2s are going to take their shot a different way, and somebody's going to come up with a winning formula. And I don't think it's a winner take most in this case. I think people are going to find niche. Some people are going to find that gaming niche, and maybe there's just like cards. There's just a trading card L2. That's totally possible. I think there's just a ton of opportunity there. So I'm bullish on this. Good for Tycho, whatever it is they do that differentiates them.
I have no idea what they do. So don't take anything that I'm saying as a criticism of that project in particular. This has just been my challenge of late, is that we're seeing a lot of these pop up that have a lot of buzzwords and a lot of fluffy sounding language, but I have a really hard time understanding what in fact they think they're going to do differently and better. And so for me, that's problematic. I guess maybe I'm not their ideal investor. Here's another one that I think is interesting. Speaking of people just kind of throwing things up there and seeing what works, is Eclipse Labs secured $50 million for an ETH L2 solution using Solana VM. Essentially they forked Solana's virtual machine and turned it into an L2 and raised $50 million on the concept.
Narrative seeking. So
yeah,
all the L2s are coming out and everyone's trying their narrative, and we'll see what sticks. Is it multi-chain? Is it Solana VM? Is it the move? Is it the ZK? A lot of VCs are really interested in ZK. It's cool, but I don't think it's sexy enough. Nobody's going to care. In my opinion, I'm not that sold on ZK. But I have, a whole backstory about privacy. I think everyone says they want privacy, but nobody really wants it. And not to mention, we're not going to actually ever get it. So we might as well just accept a certain amount of interventionism and oversight. I think that's what this is it's narrative seeking. We're going to find out. That's what I'm doing. That's what Last is we've got a narrative, we've got a product offering, and we're going to it. I think it's differentiated. It's going to be our job, along with Eclipse and Tycho and everybody else, to make sure that you actually know the difference, or that enough people know the difference to bridge over some ETH and give it a shot.
We skipped over a couple others. Arbitrum Nova L2, which is kind of interesting. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow, producers, if you're listening. And Injectives in EVM L2 rollup is really cool, actually. So I do want to talk about in EVM. I'm a little annoyed they kind of partially stole one of my ideas, but they've done it already, so good for them. Maybe I stole their idea and just didn't know. Anyways, really cool concept we'll talk about later. Andy, I know you've got a hard stop, so do I. Brother, it's been awesome. Thank you a ton for coming to Degen Day on Wednesday. Post Cube on Degen Day and talking about L2s with us, brother. Super appreciate it. Thank you a ton.
Love hanging out. Always a pleasure. Peace.
Where can people find you? Quick.
Last.net, and I'm on Twitter at Andy Boyan, ANDYBOYAN. Find me everywhere there.
Beauty. Subscribe. He usually posts some pretty hilarious shit from time to time. So if you're looking for some funnies, Andy's Twitter is the place. Andy's X is the way to go. And with that, I say to you and everybody else today, go FUD yourself. Boo, 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 boo. Boo, boo.